Oh, that's nice. So should we have some like banter before like the podcast? You all have done these before already. Jay, you've done this. Paris, this you've done this
I've done
too.
one. Yeah.
I've done this. Yeah, Perry's done it.
Typically, how many people show up? Okay,
We won't see them.
we don't see them.
Yeah, we don't. No, it's not like Zoom. Yeah, it was tough for me to get used to that at the beginning.
Okay.
We don't see them. We just see us.
Oh, so we'll hear them. All right.
Do you want to, Mike? Do you want to tell the story of how you found out about Boss and why you came
Sure. Right now.
Yeah,
right now?
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. You start.
Uh, Geez, this was like 2009, I
Or
guess.
wait, maybe we should introduce ourselves first.
Oh yeah. Okay. Good idea.
Um, I'll go. My name's Jay Carson, and I'm the executive director of Boss. And I took my student course at Boss in September of 2021. I'll tell that story in a little bit, but Perry, go
I'm
next.
Terry Tancredi. I am the deputy director at Boss and a head instructor. I took my course in my student course in 2010, 14th day.
And I'm Michael Turallo. I'm the operations director at Boss and a head instructor as well. And I took my student course in 2010 as well. I did a 7 day. And I found Boss after, not doing too much of a search. It was mostly a Google search. Uh, but I wanted to come out here because I was looking for just a wilderness experience. I had some experience in the backcountry. I was a climber at the time. Did some camping, never backpacked. My camping basically consisted of, car camping at that point. So I'd never really gone deep into the backcountry. And so I was looking for that kind of a thing because at the time I was kind of languishing in the restaurant industry as like a bar and restaurant manager and just miserable with that kind of career and lifestyle. And I had tried other careers up until that point as well too, and just never found my footing in any of them. So my mom actually was like, "Well, maybe you should go try Knowles or Outward Bound or something like that." My aunt had done a Outward Bound course in the 1980s, and it sounded pretty rugged. But in kind of researching those options, I wasn't quite convinced that it was as rugged or maybe challenging or authentic enough. And so wilderness survival had been kind of rising in TV shows. There was like Man versus Wild and Survivor Man and stuff like that, and I thought it might be interesting to go to a place that offers both the Knowles and Outward Bound type of challenge and growth with some of the more practical wilderness survival skills or just general wilderness skills. So a Google search brought me to Boss. It was like an old article that listed it in terms of like the top outdoor schools that you could go to in the country. And I kind of reached out. I was curious. I showed my best friend the link and the article, and so I wasn't fully committed. But he was like, "I'll do this with you. Let's go. Let's go and check this out." And so he really pushed me to go to Boss and came out for a 7 day in 2010. In May, so it was like the first 7 day of the season, and yeah, it was definitely way more than I thought it was going to be. Not in terms of cost, but in terms of just like what you get from the experience. That first night was I was definitely thinking to myself like, what have I done? I'm so out of my element here. I'm sleeping out here with nothing. My feet are freezing. I'm super uncomfortable. I'm a little bit scared. I was like, is this how it's going to be for this entire trip? Just miserable and freezing. And it was not. Gradually everyone just gradually gets more comfortable in that uncomfortable environment, and as you learn more, and the instructors sort of like gradually teach you the things that you need to know, you just like realize like, oh yeah, this isn't that bad. It's really hard. I'm hiking in the heat, and when are these hikes going to stop? But you get to a certain place where you just feel this shift in your mind where it's like, this actually isn't that big of a deal, and I can keep going even though my mind is like, can we please stop? My body's like, it's all right, let's keep going. So I felt myself just kind of like opening up more and more during the experience, coming out of my shell. I'd been a manager, a restaurant manager, but this kind of leadership in the wilderness is very different. And so, they give you the opportunity to lead the group. They give you the opportunity to kind of, take more of a prominent role in the group. And I thrived in that. And the instructors saw it too. And like at the end of the experience, they were like, what do you think about like coming to work here? I was like, that's an option. Like this is a thing. Like I can do this for a career. And so I was off and running after that. After like just relishing in the fact that I completed the course, I quickly started to research how to work in this field. And so I went back to school at Prescott College, studied outdoor education, and started working full time out at Boss around 2014, 2015, and I've been there ever since. So yeah, I'm now like as the operations director, I am kind of running sort of the day-to-day operations at Boss, staff training. But one of the biggest things that I enjoy doing is leading the courses now, so that people can have that same kind of experience, that like life-changing, like groundbreaking, earth-shattering experience that we offer here at Boss. Yeah, you learn how to do some cool wilderness survival skills, but really just going out deep into the wilderness with very little, with strangers, it gives you so much more than I can even really explain. So I'm always grateful and honored to lead these trips and help people have that same experience that I did 15 years ago now. I feel like that was a lot.
It is a lot.
No, that's great. Yeah, Perry, you want to tell your story of how you came to Boss?
Yeah. I had known about Boss kind of tangentially for probably 8 years as this thing that a friend of mine gave to his brother as a birthday gift, a 7-day course. And the only thing I remembered about it was that it was 7 days in the desert with a knife and at the time a cup. And you got a solo. You had to do an overnight solo, and I thought all that was just insane. And I hadn't thought about it in years. And then at some point, I was working at a job in a cubicle, living in a nice apartment in San Francisco with a great partner, but something wasn't right. A lot of things weren't right, it turns out, and I needed to get away. I needed to like remove myself from all that to figure out what was going on, and I remembered Boss, and so I looked it up. Asked my friend about it. He told me what it was. I looked it up. Still seemed kind of insane, but the idea of being out somewhere with no access to any part of my current life at that time was appealing in terms of what I needed. So I started looking at courses, I was thinking, maybe I can do a 7-day. And then as I was reading about the courses, I saw that on the 14 and 28 days, there's a large animal processing, and I thought, well, I at least have to do a 14-day. I didn't have the time off from work, but I told my boss at the time, I told him what I was going to do, and he said, fine, just come back. And so, come back alive. And so I signed up for a 14-day, not knowing too much about it. And I showed up. I remember I was nervous. I didn't know like what shoes to wear. I just remember like I gathered all my stuff from, I had camp soap for 20 years from an old like time I did in Montana, like studying birds of prey back in a prior life, and I had to buy some new stuff. And I remember just showing up, not really knowing what to expect, with a really great group, really great instructors, and it was a lot of what Mike said. It was hard, but not as hard as what I was going through at that time, and it was really kind of magical in terms of like this physical challenge, which sometimes you didn't think you could do, but then you could, and you did, and you kept going. And while that was happening, a lot of stuff, I was working through a lot of stuff that I had to work through, and it was an emotional roller coaster for me, but it was at the same time so much fun. And I remember like learning things here and there, really taking to some of the lessons and really practicing, and all of it is kind of a meditation. And then, at certain points in the course, you have time to reflect on things. And I made some good friends on that course, and there were challenges. I remember the last few days, as Mike said, when I was leading that, when the instructors left us on our own, that was a challenge. But in the end, it was great. It was exactly what I needed. It didn't fix things in my life, but it definitely gave me a different perspective and gave me that space that I needed to kind of understand what was a priority for me and what I needed to do. And then at the end of the course, at the very end, after it was done, I was approached like Michael, and they said, how would you like to sign up as an apprentice? And I also had no idea that was an opportunity, and thought it was kind of crazy. But at the time, I also, there were things in my life that I felt like I needed to change anyway, including my job, and so I took the plunge, and I've been here since. And it's really great to be able to provide the platform, the structure for that experience for other people, whether it is a physical challenge or an emotional challenge like it was for me, or a mental challenge like this for other people. People get what they need out of it seems. I have never seen a student regret coming. Certainly never seen a student regret finishing their course. I think that says a lot about the program.
Yeah, thanks, Perry, and thanks, Michael. Yeah, I'll tell my story of how I got to Boss. I do also want to say we're sort of an unrepresentative group of the three dudes here. We have a lot of women instructors. We have a good chunk of our leadership team is women, so this is just like who was free on this Tuesday morning, and a lot of the students that take our courses are women. So like this is not a and do really well on our courses too.
My instructor was a 51-year-old woman.
Mine
Yeah.
too. Mine too.
Yeah, my apprentice on my student course was a woman who kind of held the whole thing together in a lot of ways in terms of her just like brightness, and she played a big role in my ability to finish the course. And so I just want to say that because that's one of the best things about Boss, I think, is that it's difficult, but it's not it's not macho. I think in our society we've confused difficult with macho, and I actually think it's the opposite. I think the more accomplished, the more actual tough, the more actually tough someone is, the less they have to thump their chest about how tough they are. And our instructors, women and men, are some of the toughest and most accomplished people I've ever come across in my life. And nobody thumps their chest about it, but I think because they are so accomplished. It's one of the things that struck me the most on my student course. But um, I had my boss student course is, you know, probably the most profound event of my adult life, aside from the birth of my kids or my marriage. And I don't say that lightly. I really was not. I wasn't expecting it to be that. I showed up on my course thinking that it would be, thinking that I would get exactly what I got, but it was only a part of it, which is that I wanted greater skills in the wilderness. At the time, I had two kids, and I wanted to be, no, I had three kids, and I wanted to be more capable when I took them into the wilderness. And what ended up happening was, yes, I learned all those skills. I did a 14-day in the fall of 2021. Michael was my head instructor. So I was laughing when he was talking about his first night. I was like, man, then he put me through that same first night, which is kind of what we do. But that first night was beautiful and brilliant because it set me up to be about as hungry to learn as I've ever been to learn. Because in the morning after that cold first night, you know, Michael and our other instructor, Tobias, and Lucy, our apprentice, showed up and they said, do you want to learn how to not be cold like that again? And I was like, yes. And I learned. And I've never had to be cold on a camp out ever again, no matter what I had with me. No sleeping bag, no blanket, no tent, no anything. I know how to make myself warm. Every now and then I get lazy and decide, this will be fine. It feels like it's going to be 55 and I'll be okay. And then, at 2 in the morning, I think I had the skills when the cold wind blows down the canyon. I'm like, I had the skills I know how to not be cold. And yet I'm sitting here cold because I got lazy before I went to bed. But that's a choice on my part. I have the skills to not be. So I got all the wilderness skills that I was looking for: how to find water, how to build shelter, how to make fire. I mean, I can make the proverbial friction, the proverbial fire with two sticks. Like, we learned how to do that. But I think the unexpected and the most profound part of it, the part that's had the biggest impact, is the perspective shift that I got from 14 days with no phone, no internet, and facing real hardship, not the invented hardships of my front country life where, like, someone didn't respond to my email in the way that I wanted, or something didn't go exactly my way, or it took 45 minutes to get someplace it was supposed to take 30, and obviously the traffic was put there to thwart me. Um, it really shifted all of that, and I ended up getting a change in how I viewed life and how I viewed my life. And I was not expecting that from a 14-day course, but coming out and facing real hardship, knowing that I had the capacity to handle that hardship, and not only to succeed in it. It's funny, we call it survival school, but I find that I learned how to thrive out there. I learned how to thrive in the wilderness, and as a result, I can really thrive in the rest of my life. And my friend Mike, who turned me on to, different Mike, who turned me on to Boss, calls it appreciation camp. He said, I never go to Boss and come back lacking appreciation for what I actually have in my life. One of the skills we teach, one of the lessons we teach, is called compare down. And so instead of, man, I wish I had this thing that's better than the thing I have, you look at how it could be worse. I have this, and if you took this away, this would get a lot harder. And my ability to do that in my regular life is really powerful. And I see now why Mike calls it appreciation camp, because just as a general life rule, when I'm looking at what I don't have, I'm going to be unhappy. When I'm looking at what I do have and finding true gratitude and appreciation for it, then I'm much happier. I'm just happier as a person. And honestly, facing the discomfort is really good for me too. There's this great book called The Comfort Crisis that talks about that. Michael Easter, who wrote it, just did a boss course in the fall, and and it really talks about the science of why doing a difficult course that has some discomfort in it is really good for you. And it's not like the whole course is uncomfortable either. There are parts that are really tough and really uncomfortable, but I'm more relaxed and happier and more calm on a boss course than I am in the other 50 weeks of my year usually. And that's something that I also wasn't expecting. So I'll I'll stop there and yeah, I'd be happy to take questions, or can talk about anything that we should talk about. But I will say, I mean, just want to put a finer point on this. We are three dudes here talking about Boss, but a sizable percentage of our students and our instructors and our staff are women. And so that's a big part of Boss, and I think it's one of the things that makes us so strong is that this is yeah, it's a school that has that ethos, and it's a big part of who we are. Yeah. So the question was, I could just go do this on my own, and so why would I pay for this? And I think that if a person has true wilderness survival skills, like they have spent years doing this on their own, they're able to find water in the desert, they're able to build shelter out of just the debris they find on the ground, they're able to make a comfortable and warm bed out of debris they find on the ground, they're able to start a friction fire using only what they find around them. Someone that has all those skills and many more, we teach many more skills than that. If they have those skills, they should go do it on their own. That's what I do. I go do that on my own a lot now. Um, but someone who doesn't have those skills, it we don't just go out and walk around the desert and look at pretty sights. Um, we learn a lot of skills about how to actually survive out there on our own, which gives greater confidence in the wilderness. And to me, it's a little like, I mean, I've seen someone fly an airplane in the movies, and I've been on a lot of airplanes, and like, there's a little stick in front of me, and I pull it back and forth. I think back makes it go up, and forward makes it go down. Like I could probably fly a plane, but I probably can't fly a plane. And so, a lot after a lot of instruction, I'm capable of learning to fly an airplane. I'm positive. I have two hands. I have perfect vision. I'm reasonably intelligent. I could learn to fly an airplane, but I need an instructor to teach me how to do that. I need to spend a lot of time learning how to do it. And that's what we do at Boss. We teach those skills, but again, what we're really teaching is a greater self-reliance, greater confidence in the backcountry, and that has translated for me into greater confidence in the front country in the rest of my life. And everyone from my wife to my children to my coworkers have noticed that part of me since I started doing Boss. I mean, I have a good friend who's like, but come on, why do you really do this? And I'm like, if you really want to know, like, the answer, it's because my wife likes the version of me post-boss a lot more than the pre-boss version. I'm more self-confident, I'm more capable, and I just think I'm generally calmer and easier to be around. And so, right there, that's probably one of my number one reasons. I don't know, Michael and Perry, if you have anything to add there.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that we offer, and I've gotten that question a lot. It's like there's wilderness like right outside my door. Why can't I just go out there and do these things on my own? It's like, well, you can, go ahead. Usually, what I say to people is like, if you don't know how to swim, you kind of want someone to show you how to swim instead of just like throwing yourself into the ocean and seeing how you do. So there's that element of just having someone give you the basics, teach you the fundamentals, the movements, the mindset, and just the process of how to swim before you try to do it yourself. You have your parents there, like holding you as a child as you go. I had that, thought for myself when I came out to Boston in 2010. I was like, I don't know these things. It seems foolish for me to just like read a book and go out there and try to do it by myself without having someone shown me, maybe even hold my hands as I'm doing the friction fire, or show me how to use a knife in a safe and appropriate way when carving, because I had no experience with it. So I wanted that instruction, that hands-on instruction. Um, but to me though, what we offer is pushing you a little bit further than you might push yourself, so that you can kind of experience a little bit of fear, maybe that insecurity, get you feeling unsafe in what is actually a safe and contained space, so that you can have that experience. If you don't go out with a coach or something like that, you might not push yourself as far in your workouts or in your training regimen. If you don't have someone who's pushing you that extra little bit, that ultimately is where the benefits happen and where the growth happens for you, then you might not do that on your own. And so when in a real situation, in a survival situation, either in the wilderness or even in the front country, like you won't have that experience to look back on, of having been in that space already and being shown how to walk through it and how to get through it in a good way. It's not always going to be perfect, but we give you that opportunity to experience these things under stress. And it's not like we're a bunch of, it's a bunch of guys here or something like that, but we're not going to be like whipping you to keep you moving on the hike, or like, tearing away your shelter and being like, do it again. No, we do it in a very chill and laid back way of just like, this is what you can experience out here. And so having that extra element of someone pushing you intentionally outside of your comfort zone so that you can experience that is something that I don't think a lot of people would do themselves intentionally.
So I'm going to answer too, and I saw Chris's question in the chat. What are the unexpected lessons you've learned? And I'm going to kind of answer both of these. I don't know that I understood this my first course, but I've definitely come to understand this as I've taken more and more courses. The most profound personal transformations that I've witnessed and experienced out in the field don't come from someone learning how to make fire. Like, it's not making cordage. Like, I didn't go back to my wife at the time and say like, hey, I know how to make cordage now, so I know how to like work on this relationship. I'm just gonna make a fire here in the living room and then everything will be fine. You know, being out in the wilderness with someone else guiding you and having essentially no decisions to make, being free from all your distractions, the decisions you make every day. You're wearing the same thing every day, you're eating the same thing every day, you aren't planning a route, someone's planning that for you, and not having to make all those decisions you make every day consciously and subconsciously, like all the advertising, everything you listen, all these people around you, really frees your mind to actually subconsciously work on a lot of these things. And that's one of the reasons why people especially come out of solo with these clear eyes and this presence, like they've discovered something, and often it's often something about themselves. And anyone could go into the wilderness and spend 28 days, almost anyone could, and learn fire and do all that stuff, but that takes a lot of preparation, and you are 100% responsible for yourself. And you'll come out knowing more about yourself and how to make things in the wilderness, but you wouldn't have had that opportunity of being free from all of that responsibility. And that freedom from that responsibility, out of that freedom comes a lot of a lot of growth and a lot of just like magic that I think is pretty critical to being a human being that we just don't afford ourselves anymore. And you know, Boss uses these skills and teaching these skills as a mechanism to get us back to that place where we can just be human again. Um, so that is both one thing that I would say to people who says like, well, I can just go make a Bodril fire out in the wilderness. I can spend 20 days. Yeah, you can, and you can do it with us, and you're going to get totally different things from it. And maybe you should. Maybe you should do both. They're not the same thing. Um, and that is definitely something that I learned over the years that was unexpected for me. That just the removal of responsibility and decision making and distractions really, it is amazing what your mind can do without that. And the other question Chris asked is, what do you learn from your students? Um, I'll tell one story. I'll let Jay and Mike tell their versions. I was on a 28-day with a student who had an injury. I think it's a shoulder or leg injury. I don't remember what it was. That he had suffered in high school, and it got worse because his coach told him to kind of shake it off and play it off, go back in. And so he told us this in the medical intake because we asked those questions and we need to know what everyone comes in with. And about a week into the course, he said that he needed to drop because he felt that injury coming on. And the other instructors and I kind of talked. We're like, I think we can manage it here. I don't think he needs to drop. But we also realized, like, for himself, he needs to drop. He needs to rewrite this story of a coach putting him back in. I do choke up when I tell the story because it took a lot of courage for him to basically stand up for his younger self. And a lot of those things happen on course, and he did leave, and I think it was the best thing for him. I think that's why he came, so he could rewrite that story for himself. Yeah, that's one example.
Yeah, what a great story. Yeah, I what I learned from the students, I mean, it's what I learned from the students is that, to me now, the most profound part of, I can build a fire, I can find shelter. There are people that do it better than me, but I've got those basic skills now. But why I keep coming back to Boss, why I keep doing courses, is what I learned from the students. And I see in action the degree to which courage and determination and mental fortitude is the effect that has on the outcome of someone's experience. And so the youngest, most ripped, fittest, loudest talking student is not always, or even usually, the student who does the best on the course. And the student that impresses me the most, there's one in particular from the hunter-gatherer last year. I won't use his name, but he was in his 50s, had a medical condition. He was cleared by our doctors to do the course, but it was definitely, it made his hunter-gatherer probably twice as difficult as anyone else's. And he was the oldest student on the course. And he just refused to quit or give up, and he refused to have a bad attitude about it. He never woke up in the morning and said, I can't believe this thing is happening, or I can't believe how much harder this is for me. He just was always smiling, always concerned about his fellow students, and he just put one foot in front of the other every single day. And I gotta get choked up about it too, Perry. Like watching him finish that course, I learned so many lessons about the way that I can approach things, and that I don't necessarily have to be the best at something. In fact, it's often not that helpful to be the best at something, provided I have the right attitude about it, and that I bring an approach to the situation, um, a focus on what's going right, and not obsessing over what's wrong. And I just watched the student finish the course, 14 days with very little food, and and a medical condition, and 20 something years, 30 years older than the youngest student. And I watched this guy finish the course, and I think about it all the time. It really inspires me in my daily life.
Yep. I'd say I'm surprised every course that I do. You know, I always like look at the list of students that are going to be on the next course that I'm going to lead, and I'm always curious, like, okay, who's going to be the problem child here? You know, who's gonna have serious issues, and that happens. You know, people when they're faced with really difficult circumstances, they're just going to show up how they show up. You know, there's an inability to hide on these courses for people, regardless of who they are in the front country. You know, whatever status they hold or anything like that, or how important they are. It doesn't matter out there. Everyone is stripped down to their base level as a person, and that gets brought up on the course for sure. And you know, not everyone shows up how maybe they want to, or how like that is in a beneficial way for the group, but I'd say like 95% of the students that I've had on my course just show up in the most beautiful and unexpected and supportive and caring way on these things, and just there to help when they need to. These people who were strangers, you know, maybe even like 12 hours earlier, 24 hours earlier, they had no idea who they are, and now they're there, almost looking at them as family, and supporting them in a way. So that always, you know, is a source of stress for me early on. But at this point, now I know that just people are gonna come together in this experience, and that's really one of the hidden things that we offer out here at Boss, is not just like show you what you're capable of, but show you like what humanity is capable of when they have to work together and get through something that is very difficult. So I'm always grateful to witness that from the head instructor view, as I am the one who's creating this very difficult and challenging experience for them. But I always know that, you know, that people are just going to come together. They get to see that. Yeah, I might show you how to use a knife and how to make a bow drill, but these skills are just inherent in all of us. You know, it's not that long ago that we had to live like this as people, and use these skills on a daily basis. We haven't had the light switch or the water faucet for very long. So, you know, people just kind of like remember that this is how they've survived for most of our time as a species. And yeah, just to see, you know, I had a couple of 70-year-olds on a 14-day that I led a couple years ago, and you know, they're next to an 18-year-old on the course, and both of them, it's almost like that age gap didn't exist. You know, and just watching people come together for this common purpose and this common goal is always, it's always surprising, but then at the end of the day, I'm not surprised that it just ends up working out.
One thing that happens also that I've seen from students, almost every course there's someone who's slow and struggling. And a lot of times that person thinks that they need to leave because they're holding everyone else up. And you know, and we'll have a, you know, maybe we'll have a circle and we'll talk about people's experience, what they're going through in the moment, and that person will talk about that. And then inevitably, some sleeper, some student who, you know, hasn't said much, you know, just seems to be trucking along, says like, my God, I didn't think I could do it today. Like, if we had gone any faster, I would have had to leave. And then, and we tell these students, it's like, look, you might be the slowest one here, you think, but if you leave, you're just giving that burden to someone else, and you're actually doing probably 3 or 4 people a huge favor right now who are thanking you for, like, suggesting we take a rest, or just keeping the pace slow. And I have seen it happen where that slow student does leave, and then the next slow student just becomes like, oh no, now it's me. And so it's I mean, this idea that your struggle could actually be doing someone else real good, like a real favor for someone, without you realizing it. That's a really neat thing to learn and to see happen.
One simple surprise for me, and I'm still surprised by it every single season, is how wonderful my life is without this thing. You know, I really just, and I know it, and then I'm blown away by how quiet my brain gets, how happy I get when I don't have this thing with me, and it's not ringing 24/7 and telling me to do stuff, and you know, everything that comes through it to disturb my serenity. And there's always I now know about that this phenomenon exists, but the first couple days of the course, I feel the phantom vibrate. I don't have my phone, but I feel something vibrate in my pocket. And I'm so used to that thing going off all the time. And I'm old enough to remember, I'm 48, I'm old enough to remember life before a phone in my pocket all the time. And just to be reintroduced to that wonderful, quiet simplicity is really great. And it's just a reset for me. I don't live without my phone the rest of the time. I have it with me all the time when I'm back, you know, in the front country. But not having it is really great. I can't recommend it more highly. And I honestly I wouldn't do it if it weren't for Boss. I just wouldn't be as orthodox about it as I have to be on a course, because it just doesn't work. And we don't allow them either, is the other thing.
I remember there have been times in my life where I've, you know, listened to the news every day. And I remember after 128 day, I, you know, just by habit, turned the news on to listen to it again. And I was like, I had to do a double take. I was like, I think I've heard this one before. But it wasn't, it was just the same thing.
Yeah.
It was that day's news, but it was the same thing I'd heard the day before I left. and since then, I don't listen to the news every day. Barely check in, because it is the same every day. It makes, actually, I had one student who I think had the best Boss experience that you could have. She came on a 14-day, and before the course, we asked people, you know, why they came, what they want to get out of the course. And she said she and her husband were thinking about having a kid, and she didn't feel responsible bringing a child into this world without knowing how to take care of it and her family during the impending collapse of society. And this is probably 6 or 8 years ago. More, maybe. Yeah, more. So just to reiterate how things don't change. But at the end of the course, we got together again and asked, you know, how people's experience was, what they got out of it. And she said, you know, I do think I feel better about being able to take care of my family, and I don't think the world's going to collapse anymore. And it was just like, that was it. That's it. Like, that's something you can't get by spending a week alone in the woods.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I wish we could get her in here. I don't know. Can we post it in the regular thread?
Yeah, I mean, she's incredible. Alex, I mean, if you can get her in here, she'll be better than any of us, and you'll get a lot of ads out of her. I've been
Yeah,
meaning
Chris, do you want to join us so that we can throw questions your way? Okay.
It'd be great to see your face.
She's
Yeah,
our
Chris, you should join us, and
join us.
yeah, you'll be.
I mean, this makes me excited for the season. I like doing these things.
Yeah. I don't get to do this anymore because I'm no longer part of the admissions thing, and so it's good. Like I felt like that primed me for my courses, having to talk to students all the time.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, this is nice.
it is. We should maybe like rotate instructors through the admissions too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Today, just now.
Yeah, our first 28 day of the season just filled up today. So Chris,
the
if
first
you can
28
see-
first 28 days full. You said,
it's
Perry?
full now. Yeah, that's what Patrick said.
Yeah.
Chris, if you see the message from Alex with the riverside.fm link, if you just paste that in your browser, you should be able to join us.
You got to paste it in Chrome though.
Oh yeah, it
'Cause
doesn't work on
Alex likes us to use browsers where the company tracks all of our behavior.
Nice. Yeah.
Like not from inviting reporters to your
Yeah.
suggestions,
Like
other leaks.
accidental leaks or ones that have just kind of been hacked.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's listening right now. I mean, yeah.
Oh.
Hey,
Hey, Chris.
How are you?
Hi. Can you
hey
hear me okay?
Chris.
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Yeah.
You can hear me. Okay. Hi. I'm in my
Hi.
car.
Yeah.
That's good enough, huh?
So
Yeah.
you're coming back this year. I saw.
Wow, nice to see all of you. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah.
we'd love to
Thanks
have
for
you.
hopping on last minute. Just
Mhm.
kind of shooting from the hip here, but
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you taking the skills course this year? Is that right?
Yes, I am. And my husband Tom is taking the navigator.
oh,
Oh,
yes,
great.
nice.
We'll be
He's
Oh
flipping
wow.
back and forth. Yeah.
gonna love it. Yeah, I mean you're
Yeah,
going to the skills
so,
course too.
So
Yes.
just kind of like
I'm looking forward to seeing Brian again.
yeah.
Yeah.
Are you doing the 7-day skills course?
Yes, just the
Okay.
7-day. I wanted to do the PLI, but time frame, I'll have to do it next year. And I injured my knee, and I thought perhaps I needed to do a course that didn't hike so much per
Yeah.
se.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
my knee's so good now. My knee's so good. I'm going to sign up for the PLI next year.
Oh,
Very
great.
cool. Great.
Are you still
Yeah,
doing
it's-
So
And so that, let's see, I think you only have one course you haven't done with us, right? Is it the Navigator?
it's the navigator. Yes.
Okay,
I've
yeah.
done all the others more than once. I've done the skills course. This might be the fourth one.
Wow.
But I've lost track, so I'm not sure.
Why do you keep
But,
coming back? Why are you doing this?
Mostly because of what you've said, all of the things that you guys have said in this particular meeting. Um, it helps me find myself. And so then when I'm here in, like we call it, the front country, I have a deep sense of myself. So Boss teaches me not only the skills, but the patience to learn the skills. It teaches me to ask for help. Um, I'm the last one on the courses. So, like Perry was saying, it finally dawned on me. I think it was Steve Dessinger that said, "You don't realize how much you help the other people
Yeah.
when you're in the back." And
Mhm.
so I started to notice when everybody was at the top of the hill and I was trying hard to get up there. When I got there, they were resting and they were happy to rest because it was tough.
Yeah.
And I didn't ever notice that. I was too worried about being the last one. So I don't worry about that anymore. And in fact, my passion here in my life is to quietly be a positive influence without being the leader. I don't have to try. Um, I I want to just be whatever, and I don't think I could have figured that out without going to Boss and taking away the phone, like you said, and taking away the distractions of life, where you really, in the core of yourself, learn who you are, and you face you, and you go, okay, I'm pretty strong. I can do this. And so that's why I keep coming back.
Mhm.
I like that.
That's great.
Yeah, it's kind of the same for me. It's like leading these courses, even though it's a very different role than what the students are doing. I'm always reminded of the things that I got out of my student course, and it reinforces those things, just ups my gratitude, not just for myself, but for like the people in my life, the people around me. I'm a much better person, kind of like what Jay was saying. Like post boss course, you have just this overwhelming gratitude and appreciation for everything, and we need that reminder. And so I think part of the reason you come out is for that reminder of just like that gratitude and
It's a
appreciation.
reminder. Yeah.
Yeah, because I selfishly get do that. I put myself on a course, at least one or two courses a year, just so that I can have that dose of gratitude that I need, that can get me through to the next season.
I don't know if you experienced this, Chris.
Yeah.
During the pandemic, we weren't running courses, and come late fall, I could feel it. I could feel that I missed my time outside that year. I don't know if you felt it too.
Yeah. I trained hard that year. I had retired. School ended on March 23rd because of the pandemic, and I didn't have to go back to school, although we were online. But I trained and I ran and I did a 28-day trip that next year. And then I didn't want to miss my record, so I went ahead and did the PLI that year too.
Oh wow.
So I did 2 courses that year. I had to make it up. I know that's kind of an ego trip right there, but I did, and it was really lovely to do the 2. And yeah, I just love it. I will do a course every year that I can for the rest of my life. So you guys will see me when I'm 90. If I'm able to still come, I'm gonna be there. That's my promise to me, and that's what I want to do. So I'll probably be one and only, but there you go.
We'll create courses even if there's nothing that you think you can't do. We'll create the special course
Yeah.
so you can keep coming.
Okay, yeah.
The
The little
creaky
little old lady course, or what do we
Yeah.
call it? The creaky knees.
creaky
Yeah.
knees
Knees
course.
That's what I
Yeah,
like.
totally. Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we're coming to the end of the hour. Thanks for joining, Chris. It's always good to
Yeah.
see you.
Chris is my Chris was
Yeah, how
my
many?
first.
Yes, thank you guys.
Chris was my first impression of Boss, like in person. But she was the first Boss person I ever really met. We were on the shuttle together from
Yeah,
Provo to Boss, and I was like, all right, if everybody's even half as awesome as Chris is, I'm gonna be fine.
That's right.
Um,
The PLI was going on at the same time. That's right.
yeah,
thank
exactly.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Chris, how many courses have you done?
And
What's the number?
Harry, you were on my very this one coming is 13, I think.
Dang.
So this will be my 13th course. And Harry, you were on my very first course,
Yeah,
weren't
I
you?
think I was the apprentice
Do
on
you
that.
remember?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it was a great
Yeah,
7 day.
2012.
Yeah.
I have pictures.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see
And
him.
I cried a lot and I struggled for
Yeah.
sure,
I cried a lot
but
on
I
my
sure
speed.
loved it.
Yeah.
That's
It's a great
yeah.
course.
Everyone does. That's another surprise that I get is like you get a mix of people. We definitely will have like the big macho people who are like trained super hard and they're gonna it's like approaching it like a man versus wild type of thing. But then to see those people in our circles that we do, and when people can like talk about what they're going through, to see those people choked up and like crying, it's like, all right,
Yeah.
it's working.
It's that part that we don't realize what we're going to learn, and
Mhm.
so we take away those expectations and we come out with something else we never knew we would learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything you learned from other students that you didn't expect to?
Chris?
Who, me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh gosh, it's just flipping through my mind. I got their perspectives. There was one young man that was just so good at everything that he relaxed at every moment. Nothing was hard for him on that trip. And I thought, I don't even know what that's like to be okay with it all, and that's just one example. And then there's a gentle man that sang to the mountain goats as we walked by, and they all stopped and stared at him, and he was singing country songs, and I don't know if they were the goats, the mountain goats, the rams, whatever they were up
Bighorn
there.
sheep? You saw bighorn
my
sheep?
God. It was, yeah, we saw a bighorn. There were 7 of them.
Oh,
And
nice.
we were walking along, and there's Jamie, and
Wow.
Jamie became an apprentice, and he was singing this lovely country western song, and I was behind, I was in the back, and he was up there. It was on our student expedition,
So cool.
and oh my gosh, it was the most precious moment. So,
I think Jamie's going to be on the Navigator with Tom.
I hope so. I hope so. That's 2 good people. Right on.
Yeah.
So I have to go. I'm going to my training class so I can
Yeah.
be
Well, have
strong.
fun. Thanks again for joining.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Okay.
Bye.
I'll see
Thanks
you
so much,
again.
Chris.
Bye, Jay.
Yeah, thanks.
Bye, Chris. Great
Yeah.
to see you. All right. You want me to sing?
I'll be the
The boss theme.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, well, thanks everybody for joining, and we hope that you got your questions answered about Boss, and we're happy to answer more. Just reach out to us. Visit our website, boss-inc.com, and we answer a lot of the questions there, but you can also reach out to us anytime, and we're passionate about Boss, and we love to talk about it. So reach out to us if you have questions about what a course is like, whether it's right for you. Yeah, and we'd love to talk about it. So thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, hope to see you on the